It began as nothing more than a whisper. A faint irregularity buried deep inside the raw data stream flowing from the James Webb Space Telescope. At first, it looked like random noise, a harmless tremor in the ocean of cosmic background radiation. But when NASA's diagnostics dug deeper, that whisper sharpened into rhythm. Then into pattern. Then into purpose. Something out there was transmitting. Not a star, not a pulsar, not static, but a coherent signal emerging from an object catalogued as 3I, Atlas. At first, it was logged as a radio anomaly. Then as a gravitational fluctuation. But within 48 hours, the truth could no longer be ignored. It wasn't random. It repeated every 37 minutes. Each cycle shifted slightly, deliberately, as though learning, adapting, waiting. And suddenly, it wasn't noise anymore. It was information. Inside NASA, alarms went off quietly. Entire teams were pulled into classified sessions. Data pipelines were sealed. Lines of communication went dark. Scientists began breaking protocol, leaking fragments, whispering warnings. Because whatever 3I, Atlas was, it wasn't natural. It wasn't human. And it wasn't supposed to be broadcasting. No one could agree whether it was a message or a warning. It began quietly, hidden in terabytes of multiband data from Webb's deep space scans. A junior systems analyst was the first to notice it, a pulse repeating not in visible light, not in infrared, but inside the telescope's own telemetry feedback, as if Webb itself was being influenced by something unseen. At first, the anomaly was dismissed, a calibration hiccup, a statistical ghost. But the pattern returned. Identical. Then, it evolved. Hours later, the Deep Space Network picked it up independently. Except it wasn't electromagnetic. No radio echo. No ion trail. No stellar residue. It was artificial. A constructed transmission, and that changed everything. Senior engineers were called in. Mathematicians ran Fourier transforms. Data scientists stripped noise from chaos. What emerged was impossible. The signal had structure, layered frequencies, harmonic intervals, temporal modulations too precise for nature. It wasn't output. It was language. Alive. Intentional. Intelligent. The more they analyzed, the more it changed. Every 37 minutes, a new transmission. Not identical, but evolutionary. Supercomputers at JPL and Ames detected strange mathematics buried deep within, Fibonacci sequences nested inside nonlinear harmonics. That couldn't happen by accident. When they converted the waveforms into three-dimensional spectral models, the data formed geometric constructs, grids, spheres, lattice-like blueprints. One model mirrored Webb's earlier internal scans of 3I, Atlas itself, as if the object was transmitting its own schematics outward, broadcasting its anatomy into the dark. But to whom? And why now? A veteran cryptographer, a relic of the Cold War's signal intelligence era, finally said what everyone feared: "This isn't meant for us, we just happened to intercept it." NASA locked down. Databases vanished behind new firewalls. Every open channel was sealed. A new division was formed, the Atlas Containment Group. Cryptographers, astrophysicists, AI theorists, and behavioral analysts quietly assembled in secured underground rooms. Their mission: decode the signal and determine if it posed a threat. But the real questions were whispered only behind closed doors. Why is the signal changing? Why did it activate only after Webb's high-resolution scan? And most haunting of all, is it still transmitting, or is it now responding? Leaked notes spoke of one terrifying observation: there is feedback. The signal adjusts when we observe it, as if it knows we're watching. Then came the discovery that changed everything. A Caltech lab found an electromagnetic resonance pattern inside the signal that matched a fragment of human mitochondrial DNA, specifically, the section tied to neural development. It wasn't biological material, but the frequency resonance was identical to living tissue. Coincidence was ruled out. Error eliminated. 3 independent labs confirmed it. That meant one impossible thing. An object older than civilization, possibly older than Earth itself, was transmitting something that mirrored our own biological code. Not a message. A reconstruction. A memory. A blueprint of life. When that data leaked, the illusion of global cooperation shattered overnight. The European Space Agency revoked shared access. China denied everything, but their fast telescope quietly reoriented toward Atlas. Russia reactivated deep space military satellites dormant since the Cold War. India went silent. The scientific community fractured. The world's militaries converged. It was no longer about discovery. It was about survival. Then another revelation struck, not from NASA, but from the University of Hawaii. Their instruments detected a secondary signal, faint, distant, coming from what had long been catalogued as a dead asteroid. When filtered, it mirrored the Atlas transmission, but weaker. Like an echo. Atlas wasn't broadcasting blindly. It was activating something. Hours later, that asteroid changed trajectory, not by impact or solar wind, but by internal propulsion. Atlas was not alone. A darker theory took shape. What if Atlas isn't sending a message at all? What if it's answering one? That would mean the conversation predates us, a dialogue between entities moving silently across star systems, disguised as debris, until it's time to awaken. So then, what triggered its reactivation now? Our telescope? Or something else entirely? And if there's a network, how many other nodes are out there, listening? Waiting to awaken? The next revelation came from a joint MIT-Riken study. Buried deep in the signal, beyond the DNA resonance, was a third layer. A compressed digital core so dense that no Earth-based encryption could decode it. Quantum processors failed. I systems looped endlessly. But one fragment emerged, a recursive fractal spiral, evolving endlessly until it stabilized for a brief instant into the shape of our solar system. Except one planet was missing. Mars. Soon after, the people studying the signal began to change. Insomnia. Migraines. Hallucinations. Prolonged exposure caused neural dissonance, as if the signal was interacting with human cognition. One analyst wrote his final note before collapsing at his console. It's not a message, it's a memory. Some began to suspect the transmission didn't just carry information, it mirrored the minds that observed it. Adjusting itself. Adapting. Responding individually. A signal that could communicate one-to-one. A signal that could listen. Linguists were brought in, experts in semiotics, recursion, ancient languages. They expected chaos. They found order. A language, but not linear. Not phonetic or binary. It was spatial, architectural, dimensional, a living syntax shaping itself through geometry and vibration. Then came the impossible link. Its harmonic patterns matched Earth's seismic frequencies, volcanic rhythms, even neural oscillations in the human brain during REM sleep. It wasn't new to us. It was familiar. As if something within Earth, within us, had been waiting to be reactivated. Trajectory analyses revealed another horror. Atlas had altered its own path, a precise course correction before entering our solar system. It aligned itself perfectly between Earth, Mars, and a fixed coordinate in the Oort cloud. This was not a random traveler. It was navigating. And it already knew where it was going. Then came the leak. A rogue scientist uploaded a clean portion of the signal online, converted to audio. Most heard static. But those who slowed it down to 432 Hz discovered harmonic tones, ancient musical scales once used by civilizations across the world. When visualized, the waveforms formed symbols identical to carvings found in temples, caves, and ruins across continents. It wasn't coincidence. It was continuity. The signal wasn't new. It had always been here, encoded in humanity's oldest memories. And then came the 1977 revelation, a forgotten parallel buried in old archives. The WOW! Signal. A radio burst from deep space, captured once, never repeated until now. Because the Atlas transmission matched it. Down to the decimal. And for the first time in human history, the universe wasn't silent anymore.